All right, so today we'll be discussing the topic is basically beyond the degree, um, mastering behavioral competencies and psychometric tests for grade A organizations. Um, I'll be focusing on how to prepare for recruitment processes used by global organizations. At the end of the presentation, there will be a QR code you could scan to have access directly to this presentation on your own. All right, so let's get started. So beyond the degree, um, employers increasingly prioritize behavioral intelligence, problem solving, and workplace judgment over academic grades alone. So some years back, it was just purely what is your academic qualification. Back home in Nigeria, we are still some years behind. We still focus more on um, qualifications, even though that is tapering down gradually now. So it's very common to see um, an Uber driver, to see a keke rider, even being a master's student. Um, so gaining a university education, or in fact, coming out with a 2-2, 2-1, even a first class, isn't a guarantee that you secure or land a high paying job. I do understand that in Nigeria, there is the added factor of man, no man. However, even in better climes like where I am right now, your degree is could be could put your step in the door, but it might not land you the job. Employers are increasingly prioritizing behavioral intelligence. So you could have two persons having similar academic qualifications and one other person climbing up the um, management ladder or career ladder much, much more faster and consistent than some others, simply because of their behavioral intelligence, problem solving, and workplace judgment skills. And remember, what we're trying to get is the soft skills. So last time we looked at how to overcome inflation. That was fortnight ago. And you notice in there, I said one of the things I suggest is people should earn in a currency that is higher than Naira. Now, if you don't want to relocate and you want to stay put in Nigeria and still earn in foreign currencies legally at so, that means you need to seek employment opportunities outside the shores of Nigeria. For you to be able to land those jobs, and not just perhaps outside the shores of Nigeria, if you want to get an A grade get a job in an A grade organization, let's say KPMG, let's say PwC, let's say even some oil and gas jobs, and even companies like say MTN and the like, say you want to land a job in some of those A grade companies that exist back home, they are no longer doing the type of job tests that say some of us did some 20 something years ago. Remember when I was looking for a job, all we do is quantitative reasoning and the likes. And even that was just basically test, was just like um, glorified SAT. It was just basically testing your numerical reasoning and the likes. Now, the workplace had gone beyond that, and COVID-19 and the advent of AI has even made that even much more prevalent. So this presentation will show you how to prepare for recruitment processes used by global organizations. Even if you are not an employee, say you're an employer, wouldn't it be nice to see what companies that are a trillion times, 1,000 times bigger than yours, what they look out for to pick out their managers, their employees? Wouldn't you want to adapt that same methodology to sift out from the various people you have around to get people who would manage your businesses as entrepreneurs and not just employees, right? So even though it's tailored more to employees or people who intend to be employees, this skill here or the know-how here is also useful for people who would want to engage others, say for job roles. Right, so why degrees alone are no longer enough? And I'll be reading from the slide there. Employers hire for adaptability, right? The world is changing so fast that anyone who doesn't have that soft skill, again, nobody teaches you adaptability. There is no subject or say adaptability 101, the way you have maths 101 in any university, right? Neither do they tell us about emotional intelligence, judgment or collaboration, or even learning speed. Nobody, there's no university that teaches you that, right? This is not a core competence. This is a skill, right? Employers hire for this. And I'll give you an illustration of what happened with me when I first joined the bank. When I joined the bank, I came in and I discovered that where I was working had some crop of people who didn't know so much about the computer. Now, bank was moving away from the analog way of doing things and they were going computerized, highly computerized as at that point. So we had head of departments, we had operation managers, we had business managers who weren't conversant with the basic, which was just Microsoft. So you had things like Microsoft Excel, Microsoft Word, and some other things. They could not know, they didn't know how to use all of those things, right? And those things were needed for reporting and things like PowerPoint for even presentations. And they could not use those things. So someone like us, the younger ones that came in, we were more or less like the extension of their finger. I remember being the extension for my operations officer and for my business manager. I remember my business manager taking me out for lunch and dinner because I was able to save his face by doing something on Excel or PowerPoint and the likes. As time had it, all of that generation were paid to go home. They had the experience, but they could not adapt. They just paid them and told them to go home. Some of them who had some level of adaptability still remained, but someone like me came and became their boss, or at best, the same grade with them. And these were people who taught me the rudiments of the job ab initio, right? But because they were not adaptable to the new thing happening, they went obsolete, right? So employers want to employ people who are adaptable. How will they know that you're adaptable? They don't write it on anybody's forehead. They will put you through an assessment, right? And that's what we'll be looking at. Now, they also use competency frameworks like psychometric testing and behavioral interviews. They use these things to try to gauge your type of personality or your behavior, as the case may be. Now, don't forget that academic knowledge is still needed. It shows intelligence or perhaps an understanding of a particular topic. However, behavioral competencies show workplace readiness. Somebody may be grown or an adult in age. It doesn't mean the person is ready for marriage. So also, somebody might have been able to cram or perhaps understand a particular subject and be able to regurgitate that thing for an exam and for, say, an interview. It doesn't mean that person is, suitable for that role. For instance, if you're a business analyst, you can't be saying you're an introvert. It doesn't make sense. A business analyst should be an outgoing person. If you are a if you are a data analyst, or let's say you're a programmer, yeah, you might be an introvert because you could be indoors all day, no qualms. But if you are For certain roles, if you say you want to be a manager where you have 18 persons around you, empathy has to be something you're interested in. You have to be able to listen to people. You have to be able to adapt to people's needs. You have to be able to make people work together. All of those things are not things you learn in school, right? So let's move on. Um, So we'll be looking at some key competency areas assessed by employers. They are basically emotional intelligence, resilience and adaptability, communication and assertiveness, problem solving and cognitive abilities, team behavior and workplace judgment, and the last but not the least is personality and culture fit. Now, personality and culture fit is pretty new, but is becoming something very key because say if you're working remotely, you would work with people from, you could work with people from Bangladesh, you could work with people from India, you could work with people from, Romania, you could work with people from everywhere. How would you be able, how is your personality in terms of dealing with culture, right? Again, it's becoming a key thing when it comes to employment, especially if you are looking to gain employment in, you know, um, top companies where you get paid well. So let's go to psychometric testing. Now, psychometric testing are tests that are standardized assessments used to evaluate your thinking ability. How do you think? Your behavioral tendencies. Now, your workplace judgment. For behavioral tendencies, I'm beginning to see that I might need to ask people who come to me for even say, we want to get married, premarital counseling to carry out these behavioral tendencies. Because it will tell you a lot about yourself. Many times we think we know ourselves, but do we? Right? So we'll be doing the practical very soon. Workplace judgment and personality traits. Employers use them to predict job performance, leadership potential, reliability, and teamwork ability. Gone are the days where you write a cover letter and say, I'm able to work under pressure, ability to work under pressure unsupervised. I am a good team worker. All those things are stories. You'll be put to the test, or they will try to assess you in that regards before you come in, right? The next one is emotional intelligence, right? Here, employers measure your self-awareness. How self-aware are you? Your ability to control your emotions. How empathetic are you? And your relationship management. How do you deal with people from different backgrounds? How do you handle them at the place of work? Nobody wants to be doing conflict management at work if they don't have to, right? Like, look at the sample question there. So your colleague criticizes your work publicly. What is the best response? That's an example. Um, Option A is ignore completely. B, respond angrily immediately. Remember, when you are, I'll show us how to do this later on, but in case I forget, when you are attempting this test for the very first time, be as sincere as possible. What it does, it tells you who you are. Then you can now note down where you need to improve upon. That's different from when you're actually doing the test. When you're doing the test, you know the correct answer and you just give them the correct answer. It's different from say, this is who I am really. However, over time, employers have come to discover that people can give the right answer. It doesn't mean that that is what they will do. So what they do is that they make some of these tests very long. They can give you like 125 questions and they will repeat some questions like 10 times and quick tweaking it in different ways. If your answers are not consistent, the system will pick it up that you are lying. If your lying coefficient is high, you get lower scores. So it's not just picking the right answer, it's being consistent in what you say or who you say you are. So let's look at the sample question. Ignore completely. So if you are somebody that when people criticize your work, not privately, but publicly, say you're in the choir or say you are in a project and your team leader just calls you out publicly and rubbishes your job. In the real sense, in you yourself, on your own, how would you behave? Would you ignore it completely? Would you usually respond angrily, immediately, fire for fire? Or will you ask for feedback privately? Or will you escalate to HR immediately and go and complain that why is this person rubbishing my work openly? What would you do? Now, the correct answer will usually be I will ask for feedback privately, which shows maturity. But that might not be your personality. So, like I said, when you're doing it, attempting the first time, go straight up and go straight up and do what you need to do on your own. Now, there are several sites where you can find these things. So one of them, for instance, is mindtools.com, where you look at emotional intelligence. I'm going to drop that in the chat um, for us. So in case you want to pick that. Anyway, you have access to the slides, so no problems. So that I won't waste time. So how emotionally intelligent are you, right? You can take some quiz here. You can take you can take some tests here, right? Take the free test. For some of them, they may ask you that you should pay certain things, but just leave that. You can always go for the free trial, right? So this is an example. Let's see if it will give us the opportunity to have a free test if I have not used up that window. It's taking its time verifying. Boom. All right, choose your gender, male. Start a test. You find it easy to make new friends. Is it strongly agree, neutral, disagree, or strongly disagree? Right? These are some of the ways the question comes. So asking you, do you easily make new friends? So if you're an introvert, your answer will most likely be disagree or strongly agree. If you're a sanguine, for instance, your answer may be strongly agree. And if you're just an average person, it might be agree. And if you don't know, you could use neutral. So let's say I say neutral for this, right? You could spend days learning about random things that interest you. Is that true about you? Could you spend days just learning random things that interest you? Is that who you are? Let's say I click on agree. Again, remember, there are no right or wrong answers. They want to know the type of person you are. There are no right or wrong answers. However, if you keep giving different answer for different types of questions, because they will ask you that same question in different ways. If you keep changing your answer all of the time, it means you are lying. You are not being true about your personality. When others upset you, you feel upset too. So are you quick-tempered? Well, if your answer is, I agree. When they get angry, I get angry. Yeah, you choose agree. If well, that describes me very well, you choose strongly agree. You aren't one for backup plans. That is usually you just plan and put all your eggs in your basket. You don't have backup plans, right? You don't have backup plans for if your car breaks down. You don't have backup plans for if I'm going to work. And when you plan your life, you just move straight forward. You never have backup plans. Now remember, you may know the correct answer, but it doesn't describe you. The correct answer may be yes, I should have backup plan. But you know yourself personally that you usually don't have backup plan. If you don't practice this test, when you go for it, because it's going to be like 100 questions, sometimes 125, you will eventually get, and the reason is that they want it to be that much so that you'll be fatigued while doing it and eventually start saying the correct answer, right? That's the essence. So you aren't one for backup plans. You don't say, I don't know, I'm neutral. You click on that. You stay cool, calm, and collected when under lots of stress. So if you're one of those that when you're under a lot of stress, maybe you hear one bad news, you just quickly run to the toilet, your stomach turns, you start purging. You'll be saying, oh boy, I don't agree with this. Or and always know that they can use not. You do not stay cool. You stay cool. So if it is not, negative gives you positive. You have to remember all of those. So let's just click anything for this just to see what it does. Um, when out and about, you don't really introduce yourself to new people. So you can see what they are trying to do here is that they are asking you the same question they asked you the other time. Do you easily make friends? They're asking it to you now in a different way. If you are just clicking randomly, over 125 questions, you would have forgotten what you clicked initially. You would have forgotten what you clicked initially. So when out and about, you don't really introduce yourself to new people. You prefer to chat with people you already know. You see, this is somebody who doesn't make friends easily. Is that who you are? Let's say you disagree. You don't like to start a new project until the first one is finished. Is that you? That when they give you something at work, you must finish one before you start another one. You don't have the ability to carry two or three things together. You mix it up together. Is that you? Choose your answer, right? So that's an example, right? I've given you the website. You could go try that out later on. Let's go back to the slide for the for the sake of time. Yeah. So yeah. All right. So the next one is personality assessments. The purpose here is to assess your work preferences and behavioral patterns, right? I have applied for more than a handful of jobs here, and I've not, I've not been, I've not gone for any interview where I've not had to do at least two of these tests I'm talking about. And I've also heard of people back home in Nigeria who are working for firms, say in Germany, in US, in UK, some even in South Africa, they do this. Eventually, no matter how big your portfolio is in terms of work experience, you still get to pass through some of this. So the purpose of personality assessments is to assess your work preferences and behavioral patterns. And there are some popular tools. Now, when you get these slides, you can just click on the links. It will take you to um, the sites. The first one here is 16 personalities. I think I would prefer, um, I think I'll prefer the big five test for this um, presentation. Right, so there are different personality tests. This is strongly agree. This is agree. This is somewhat agree. The middle is neutral. Then this is somewhat disagree. This is disagree. And this is strongly disagree. But I don't like the way they arrange it here. Again, different organizations may arrange it in different ways. So it's good to get used to it. Let's go to the one that might be easier for us to deal with. So this is inaccurate, right? And then accurate. So you have accurate at the end, and they have inaccurate to my left. I don't know if the screen is mirror at your own end. So I accept people the way they are. Are you inaccurate or accurate? Or are you the one that's always trying to change people and don't accept people the way they are? You click on it, right? I believe in the importance of arts. They're trying to know more about you. My moods change easily. Is that true? I take care of other people before taking care of myself. Is that true? I am always prepared, Boy Scout. Is that true? Now, you notice everything here has nothing to do with your qualification. Nothing to do with your qualification. In this case, you can do that. People have taken about 71,000 tests in the last 30 days. You could be the next. Um, just give it a try again, so that will not waste so much time here. We have a lot to cover. Now, the important thing here is that there's no right or wrong personalities. Employers are looking for consistency, right? Right or wrong personality. Employers are basically looking for consistency. Consistency. And this is why you need to do this over and over. Even if you are not ready for, you are not, you've not even gotten a job, you are not planning to look for one yet. Do it, know yourself very well and know where to improve on. Right? Sample question, I prefer working. A, alone, we've done that already, so we'll leave that. Now those are personality assessments, right? Let's move to the next one. The next one is situational judgment test, SJT, situational judgment test. Now, many people don't have problem with, they may not have so much problem with the first two or three we've looked at. But this is where a lot of people get hooked up, right? And I want to spend, say, some 5 minutes here. So, situational judgment test measures decision, that's decision making in realistic workplace situations. In realistic workplace situations, right? And these are some practice platforms. I'll click on the first one, for instance, that's SHL. I think I added a hyperlink there for you all. So just go there, click on the hyperlink, and then you'll be able to do that. So here are some practice tests, right? You can take some practice tests and then just move on. So you can go to some example questions and do practice tests, right? Let's see example questions if it's going to come up. Now, examples, they are different. They are different type of assessment examples. Most times your employers, we merge all of them together. Say if it's a personality questionnaire or a situational judgment, let's take a situational judgment, since we are looking at situational judgments here. And let's launch example questions. So this is an example question for situational judgment test. So in this example, you will see that response one, set up weekly, meet with your team to review progress and set short-term objectives, has been given a desirable rating. This means that the person felt that the course of action was considered to be desirable response, that is, a reasonably positive action in this situation. Likewise, ratings of undesirable and higher desirable have been selected for response 2, 3, and 4, respectively. Let's look at what they are saying. Please set up weekly meetings with your team to review progress and set up short-term objectives. Let's say that this is an answer to a question. This is the question. Look at the question. You manage an extremely busy team of 6 people who operate as an office-based customer service department. The peak business period for the year is approaching, and your department is undoubtedly beginning to feel the strain. Matters are reaching breaking points with staff morale dropping and errors increasing. Your staff are openly questioning what is expected of them and are confused about the department's overall objectives. However, the situation is not irretrievable if you act now. Your major customers remain happy. Urgent action is required, and they are asking you, what will you do? So will you set up weekly meetings with your team to review progress and set up short-term objective? Is that what you would do? You can say highly desirable, undesirable, slightly desirable, slightly undesirable, and like that. You can choose the one you want. And most times it's only one or two that will be correct, right? That's why many people miss it here, because in this case, there's nothing like guessing. There's a right or wrong answer. But this is a real life example. Say you are working in a customer service department and you are handling, say, customers that are coming for the second time. And it's Easter period right now. There was internet shutdown somewhere, and all of a sudden, a lot of people are calling into the customer service center, and you are the manager. And now a lot of calls are coming in, and people are stressed, so people are getting angry. Some of your staff are beginning to shout, angrily at your customers, as the case may be. How would you handle the situation? How will you? Yeah, somebody said this cost you your last assessment for an internship. Exactly. This is one of the most difficult one, right? Situational judgment test. Because it will assume that it will put you inside that role. And it's usually for people who are either, well, it works for even people who are front desk or people who are back office. It works for both ends. Now, if you're an employer, you should want to test your employees with this. So because somebody has been teaching geography for donkey years doesn't mean the person should be the head of department. If the person is going to scatter and cause rancor within your staff and decimate your business, you should want to know who is better fit for that particular role, irrespective of the person's number of years of service, because what you need here is performance, right? You are paying the person more money to be a manager, not more money to continue teaching geography that the person has been teaching for donkey years. So I will beg of us to go and do situational judgment test, right? Now, before I come back, I might come back to situational judgment. I think I jumped something in this slide. Let's go back. Um, let's go back to let's go back to psychometric testing. Yeah, no, let's go back to emotional intelligence, right? So I didn't drop any major sites here apart from the EU quiz, and I didn't drop any link because I wanted to show us how, in case you go to this site and they begin to ask you to pay money, because some of them we have, they allow you to do it for like 10 times free, some 5 times free. When they begin to ask you to pay, of course, there are other sites. You can use AI to look for other sites beyond the one I'm giving you. But you can also practice using some of these AI tools, right? So let's leave SJT for now and come. So I can come to Gemini, or let's use ChatGPT. ChatGPT is more popular. I can come to ChatGPT. This plus button here, click on it. You see more, click on more, and then go to quizzes. Plus sign, more, quizzes. Click on it. And you can ask a question like, prepare a practice emotional quotient or IQ question for a business analyst role for a job assessment with, say, KPMG. Let's even use a simple, come on, MTN. Now, because it's quiz, it will prepare it for me like a quiz, right? Let's see the outcome. In fact, I can copy that same question and take it to Copilot. Go to Copilot, go to plus, and go to take a quiz too. And then put the same thing. Gemini doesn't have that quiz part, but you can then just type your question straight up. So this is one. This is a sample, this thing now. You've prepared sample question for it. It gives you 1 of 10. A project requires reducing customer complaint resolution, that's the resolution time, from 10 days to 6 days. So let's say you are working in a company, customers are complaining. Usually your SLA is 10 days. And you now as a manager, they want you to reduce your response time to customer to 6 days. What percentage reduction is required? It's as simple as that, right? You are the one answering this question. So let's say you say, okay, it's 4 days, you say you pick 40. You go to the next question. Stakeholders disagree on requirements priority. Again, the question I'm asking here is for a BA. Your own may be, public health. Your own may be data analysis. Your own may be a manager. Your own may be graphic designer. Put it in. I ask for business analyst. Right? Stakeholders disagree on requirements priority. What is the best fit, the best first action for a business analyst? Should you escalate immediately? Ignore low influence stakeholders, document assumptions and validate priorities, or implement based on personal judgment. What will you do? Right? So what will you do in this case? Let's say you decide to say, okay, I'm going to document assumption and validate priorities. Let's say that is your answer. If you take note of that, it's going to tell you later on which is the correct one. If all telecom customers are users of mobile services and some mobile service users use broadband, which statement is true? Right? Again, if you're a business analyst, one of your key roles is requirements gathering. It is expected that you should be able to listen to a statement and understand what it means. If you're going to be a customer service person, you are picking calls for people in abroad. Again, I must tell you that our friends in South Africa are doing more than we are doing in Nigeria, maybe because of power supply. Many of them in South Africa, the previous place where I worked, more than 60% of their customer service people are from South Africa, sitting in South Africa, earning pounds in South Africa, living very big, doing customer service job. So imagine if you're in Nigeria, you're earning 1,000, just 1,000 pounds. That would be an average of about 2 million naira every month. And all you need to do is sit down for 7 hours, 7 hours, 30 minutes break, that's 7 hours. People call and you answer their question, you respond to their questions, and you do it in your house. You earn 24 million a year. But you're going to go through this kind of test to get that kind of job. Don't just give it to anybody simply because you graduated from Ladoke Akintola University somewhere. It's not going to happen. There are several people running for that same job. They are going to screen people out, right? So if all telecom, because again, why I deviated to that is that a customer is speaking to you and is speaking using a British accent or an American or Jamaican accent, he doesn't want you to keep saying pardon, pardon, pardon. You should be able to pick what he says, interpret it, and understand what he says. For example, this is a question. All telecom customers are users of mobile services. And some mobile service users use broadband. Which statement is true? All mobile users use broadband. The answer is no. It says some, not all. All broadband users are telecom customers. Possible. No telecom customers use broadband. Some telecom customers use broadband. That may be it. So these are the type of questions. Let's quickly just rush through all we have here so that we can do that. A data set show revenue increase from 2 to 2.6 million. What is the percentage growth? Right? They want to know by what percent did they grow. So you should know your answer and put it into that. Let's just pick a random one for the purpose of picking, right? I'm going to keep picking random questions, just random answers, just for this purpose of picking. It's not allowing me to move on. I have to get the answer correctly before moving on, right? I can then rephrase this question, right? I can copy this same question and I can say you should prepare this for me, right? Allowing me to move to the next question, even if I get any wrong, right? That's why it is AI. It will put it in such a way that even if I get the next one wrong, I should be able to move on. So I'm able to know my proper, you know, to know how. So if I pick anyone wrongly, it should be able to allow me move on thereafter. It seems it's still not doing that. I prefer the new one. It allows you to move on to the next question. That allows you to move on. It takes that. So it has prepared one now that allows me to move on, even if I get it wrongly. Again, what we did there was we just went back to emotional intelligence. So you know how to do that on your own. Let's move on to the slides quickly. So I will leave situational judgment test, but please, that's one of the most difficult one. The situational judgment test is one of the most difficult one, and it's the one you want to spend so much time practicing, right? You want to spend so much time. So use SHL, we have job test prep, we have assessment day. They all have hyperlinks there that can take you to the site. Except you just want to do low job, you don't mind your 100,000. If you are looking for jobs that can pay you more, if you are looking for jobs abroad, you're looking for jobs that can pay you, say, in the millions. Sorry, no shortcut. You have to, they will test you in one or two or more of these things, right? So again, these are more on SJT. I had an example here, but we'll just leave that for the sake of time. And the next one you need to go through are cognitive ability tests. Cognitive ability test. What it does here is that the test covers numerical reasoning, logical reasoning, verbal reasoning, and pattern recognition. This looks similar to what my generation did when they were looking for a job. It was looking more like what we did when we were looking for a job then. It was more mathematics and some things like that, right? Again, they may use this if you are going to be like a data analyst, say you want to be a chief accountant, say you want to go into things like anti-money laundry. Again, someone should remind me on WhatsApp on Monday, that's tomorrow. I should prepare for anti-money laundering. I see many people are not looking into that, but it's a growing field that you can do even remotely from your house. But that's on the side note. If you're in compliance, you're going to compliance and auditing, they may want to ask you some cognitive ability tests, right? So we have psychometric tests here, we have assessment day aptitude tests, we have practice aptitude tests. These are sites I can go to. Let's pick one. Let's pick assessment day aptitude test and see what it will do for us. Assessment app. So, all right. So it is a site you can go to and pick, practice design like the retest, right? So it's designed like the retest. Let's say you're going to numerical, you can pick the numerical, the one you want, and then go straight into it. So let's say most common aptitude numerical reasoning, they'll also explain it. In fact, most of what we are saying are also, this is SHL test we mentioned. You have it there, you can click on it again. We need to be spending more time here learning some of those things. Again, for the sake of time, I'll leave that. I have those links here for us to go to and pick. All right. So let's move on. Okay, so next. Right. Numerical reasoning sample. Again, is just an example of the previous slide I jumped. The question can be if a company profit increased from 2,000 to 2,600, what is the percentage increase? So if you say you're one of those people that believe you don't like mathematics, well, you should know at least those basic percentage increase ratios and some other things. It may not be needed for every role, but say you're an accountant, there you should definitely know that. And some of the job roles I've mentioned before. And if you're in the medical field, nobody might be asking you all of this. However, if you want to go into management in the medical field, they'll expect you to know it. If you want to go into management in the medical field, they will expect you to know because as a manager, you might not be hands-on on the floor. You might be going for meetings and giving presentations. So You want to say the number of staff have increased by this is the percentage growth of the number of staff, this is the percentage growth of your expenditure, this is the percentage growth of your or growth or reduction in your let's say expenses. You know it. So being a manager is not something you are taught in school. The skills that make you a manager are not taught in school. You have to learn them, either on the job or something else, but you have to learn them. And that's what this process is all about. So being a school principal or a school manager, it's not something you learn in a university, right? You need to learn those skills. And these are some of the things that can point out to areas where you need improvement or areas where you need to look out for to get people. This is another example. Find the missing number. So you have 2, 6, 12, 20. They expect you here. Again, these are things that if you've been looking for a job in Nigeria, you should be used to this. These are some of the things they ask. Difference between 2 and 6 is 4. Difference between 6 and 12 is 6. That simply means this thing is growing 2 by 2. So the next one should be what? 10, right? So this is 4, 6. Then after 20, you should have 10 because you keep increasing 2 by 2. The answer should be 30 for this one if you did it correctly, right? Now, let's start going to some of the soft skills. These, I know I've been saying many of the things I've been saying. I say you've not been taught in university. Well, this one, I can guarantee that you've not been taught in any university because nobody teaches us this. This is resilience and adaptability. If you go through the World Economic Forum, we discussed that last year, 2025 report of World Economic Forum, and you look for the skills that employers are looking for, top employers are looking for, resilience and adaptability ranks at some of the top in those skills. Employers assess your ability to handle pressure because they're going to pay you more, they're going to put you under pressure. The pressure is not so much as to the quantity of work, it's more to the quality and the time sensitivity for delivery. So they may not give you plenty things to do, but when they ask you to do a presentation, they want you to do the presentation and your ability to sit down, go through it, ensure that there is no error, and they may tell you that you need to have a meeting with somebody tomorrow and you have 30 minutes to prepare for those. Of course, if you still do your presentation using only PowerPoint and from your head, then this is where AI comes in. Because you could put all your ideas inside AI, use the appropriate prompt. We might have another session where we discuss prompts. Get those things, feed them somewhere, or even if it is PowerPoint, if it's something as basic as PowerPoint, it can give you suggestions of how to beautify your slide. You want to do that as quick as possible. So they'll put you under pressure. Now, if there is a setback, how do you recover? Organizations want to know. The organizations know that we are humans and errors will occur. The errors could occur from you or it could even occur from management. But when the error occurs, how do you recover? If your plane is shut down and you lose 2 pilots in behind enemy lines, how do you recover from that setback? No employer wants to employ people that once they lose a particular bid or something, they just go back into self-pity. And they want people who learn from feedback. The feedback could be positive or negative. It could even look critical, but do you learn from them, right? These are some tools you can use. Again, I've attached the URL to that. You could just click on it when you get it, and you can try this. You can try that. Start free trial. Take the free test. Let's go back. Some will be asking you to pay monthly, and if it does so, remember I've shown you where you can go to and you can generate some of this on your own, even using some of those generative AIs. Again, we've seen this particular site before, Blossom Up, right? We've seen it before, so I'll not waste time here. Let's go to the second one, Psychology Today, Resilience Test, and see. Now, if you are still in school or you're a fresh graduate, remember that Nigeria is usually some years behind some of the developed countries. So in the developed countries, this is what is happening now. This is like bread and cake here. Nigeria will catch up soon. In fact, some of the A-rated companies are already doing this, right? And they've been doing it for a while. So if you are prepared, while you are getting all your chartered, I mean, not a chartered account and everything, you are putting yourself at the forefront for when you eventually need to use this. So don't say I don't need this now and then just sit down. So these are resilience tests. These 20 questions they can give you. So let's look at this. You see that strongly agree, and strongly disagree is here, neutral is at the middle, and strongly agree is at the end. So this first one is strongly agree, right? Whereas this is agree, the middle is neutral, this is disagree, and the last one is strongly disagree, right? So I can bounce back after a setback. Is that true about yourself? Of course, an employer will want strongly agree. I can regulate my emotions by remaining calm. An employer will prefer strongly agree. If somebody is talking to you at a loud voice, maybe the lady just had a bad day with her husband and she came to work, and then somebody just did something, or somebody just antagonized her in a meeting, and you are there for your stand-up meeting the first 20 minutes before you go into the day, and she's now shouting and shouting at you. Are you one of those people that will just regulate, or you just give the person fire for fire? They want to know. I can stay positive even during bad times. Are you pessimistic or optimistic? They want to know that. Say, I don't know. I'm neutral. Uh, I know how to pivot when things require me to be flexible. So I know how to change from one thing. If my job desires me to move, to switch from working from 9 to 5 to, let's say, working from now 11 to something, am I flexible? You know, if my stakeholder or my customer wants me to do something differently from the norm, am I flexible? This is where you can practice all of these questions here and know your type of personality. Remember, some of these sites might ask you to pay. Some, maybe because I'm in UK, some in Nigeria may not ever ask you. But whatever the case, I've shown you again how you can go here. So instead of IQ test here, you can replace this with psychology test or whatever test and have ChatGPT or even Copilot. If you want to do the same thing for Copilot, you go, I told you, you use quizzes, it will give you something similar, and then you can then start trying them out, right? Well, it's going to be tough for anyone to claim he's going to get a job um, without these things, right? Say for a top A tier company. Now, the next one is communication and assertiveness. You notice that these things are many. When they are giving you the 120 questions, they may break it into three. So the first one, the 100, they may merge two. They may do situational judgment test is usually on its own. So they may add communication and assertiveness together with workplace behavior culture. They may add them together. So it's not that you sit down and do 8 tests. It might just be 2 or 3. Like the last job I got now, it was a 4-stage interview, 4-stage assessment. Before the physical assessment, there were 3. Then eventually the physical assessment. So from the first 3, they've cut out a lot of people. Before they'll now say, okay, now you that you claim that you've passed it, let's now talk to you one-on-one. That's where you now need your well, let me not preempt that, we'll get there when we start talking about interview. So they want to look at your communication and assertiveness. Well, for an average Nigerian who is eloquent, you might not have problem with communication. But if you want to climb up the ladder, you need what is called assertiveness. So you're a manager. You walk up to somebody and you say, Bimpe, can you please, Shadi is not feeling well and she's not at work today. Can you please take on this job? And we need this report by 6. Let's say your manager tells you that. Will you be able to, and you tell your manager, sir, you remember you gave me another job that I need to finish by 6. If I do the two together, I might not be able to finish either of them, or I might not be able to finish both of them. And your manager says, but uh, what do you think? And your manager is trying to insist that you do it. Would you be able to stand your ground and say no? And say it in a polite way? That's assertiveness. Turn it the other way around. Will your manager be able to stand his ground and say, look, this job needs to be done, without threatening you, without saying, I'm going to sack you the way we do in Nigeria. I'm going to, do you know who I am? Without saying all of those, because again, if you want to work for A-grade companies, you can't go around harassing anybody. You can't go around harassing anybody, right? You brought a job outside that person's JD, but the job needs to be done. So assertiveness is standing your ground, right? So again, you can go there, mind tools, communication skill for further development. That's the place. You can go there to practice sample questions. Now, remember, in case you came late, I said from the beginning, when you are doing some of these tests, even if you know the correct answer, this page is broken. Even if you know the correct answer, don't just put it yet. When I mean, what I mean by correct answer, don't put the answer that you think the employer wants. For the very first test, put the answer that describes you, or what you think you are. So if you're an introvert, for example, now, and they say that, how easy is it for you to make friends? Don't go and say, I easily make friends. When the real you is that I don't easily make friends. So the very first one you want to do when you are practicing, be very open. It helps you know who you are, your personality. And most times, when you know that, then you now know how to improve that particular quality, right? Let's begin to wrap up. Now, another part that people, they look at very well is workplace behavior and culture fit. Workplace behavior and culture fit. Employers look for accountability, integrity, collaboration, and professionalism, right? And you can practice this with tools from like Test Gorilla and Graduate First to hone your skills. Again, I've put the link there. Now, when it comes to workplace culture, especially if you are a Nigerian and you want to work in a company outside the country, this work culture, like I say, is a new thing. What I mean new is recent, less than a decade, but it's taken very, very seriously. In fact, if you go to Google right now or Facebook and ask, there is a particular woman who just won a court case, and she won the court case because one of her colleagues kept calling her auntie. Even when she has told the colleague, stop calling me auntie, this colleague is a Nigerian. She's working with somebody. And our culture is that the person, anybody older than you becomes an auntie. When she sees the woman, she says, auntie. Lady says, stop calling me auntie. Stop calling me auntie. It was second nature to that lady to call auntie. The king went to court, and she has to pay over, I think, 1,000 something pounds as damages. Somebody else lost their job last year for um for playing with a colleague, just joking with a colleague. And what did she say? The colleague just came back from leave. She said, oh, you are looking very nice. You had time to rest. You even added small weight. The colleague started crying. You are body shaming me. You can't tell people that you just added weight. You can't make reference to anybody's height, stature, color, or anything. right? You lose your job. So if you are sitting in Nigeria, right, then your manager that is supposed to attend is talking to you over the manager, and then I introduce a new person. The new person that is talking to you has dreadlocks and 4 earrings in his nose, one in his lips, and five in his ears. And after that, you now send private chat to the person. You need to give your life to Christ. You are losing your job, right? So there is culture fit. You need to understand how to fit into that. Nobody wants to bring in somebody into the organization that is going to just disrupt the whole system. Do your work and go. You can meet outside job and then go and evangelize. Now, say some people, there are some brethren that came here, they're in the care sector, and they are taking care of people. Let's say they are working in NHS in the hospital and they are carers. So the nurse have worked, the doctors have worked. You are a carer now, just ensure you take care of the person and everything. And the person now say he has a particular ailment. You now hold the hand and say, okay, let me pray for you in the name of Jesus. The person will allow you to do anything you want to do. Immediately, your supervisor come, you say, this person was praying for me in the name of Jesus, and I didn't ask her, and I don't believe in Jesus. You've lost your job, right? You are not employed to evangelize. If you want to pray for the person, after the person gets outside, you go and evangelize the person. So there are a lot of workplace behavior and cultural fit. And that is one major reason why Nigerians end up not landing the job, right? We end up not landing some of those jobs because we are too deep, neck deep in our culture, and we refuse to learn about the culture of the company we are applying for, right? When I first came to the UK, the very first job I got, somebody was teaching me, a lady was teaching me, and yeah, I might be older than the person, but our natural instinct is that anybody that is teaching you, you just put ma. So when the lady said, I said, Femi, did you understand? I say, yes, ma'am. He said, what did you just say? Did you say ma'am? No, no, my name is Stephanie. Uh, yes, ma'am. Oh, sorry, Stephanie. It took me a while to get used to just calling them by name. My previous manager is a grandmother, and she doesn't want me to call her by any other thing apart from her name. Can I be calling a grandmother by her first name? Just imagine me looking at somebody old to be my mom, and I just look at the person and say, blessing. But that is work culture. I remember the bank where I worked before I left Nigeria. They brought in a new manager, a new MD, who wanted us to do that thing. That thing was only working in the head office, right? If they burn you well, go call your manager for branch for Abulegba, go call them in name and see what will happen to your KPI, to your scorecard. It could only work in the head office, right? So go here and check some of those things. It will give you examples, and then you prepare yourself for those big jobs. Again, remember, um, they know you have a first degree. In fact, most of them will not even ask you whether you are first class, second class. In fact, if you graduated in Nigeria with pass, you can land a job abroad if you practice these things very well. Because the jobs abroad, most of them don't ask you about your grade. They just ask you, can you do the job? Yes. Then they take you through some other recruitment process, which are some of these tests, right? Which are some of these tests we're discussing. So you see people who came out with 2-2, who came out with third class, landing big jobs, and you with 2 and you're wondering what is happening, is because you lack information and what you don't know is bigger than you. Right. So how do you prepare effectively? This is just my own view. You can always do your own. Take 1 week and do comprehensive personality test to understand your profile. Again, remember, this first week, be sincere. Don't give the answer that you know employers would like to hear. Give answers that are true to yourself. So if you are somebody that when people criticize you openly, you flare up, put it there. I flare up, put it, tick it, any answer that's similar to that one or represent that one. You know who you are. Then you can then start, you now know the flaws. that are going to stop you, because the thing is that you can't hide yourself from who you are. When you get to the job, they will bash you openly. Somebody will talk to you in a way you don't like. If you overreact, you are on your way out. Straight up. And you may even have damages to pay to that person, because if you shout on the person anyhow, the way we shout here, the person can tell you that, tell the company that he or she was under had an anxiety attack. If you want the anxiety attack, we will shout for each other for Jori and Oshodi every day. But if they're going to bring somebody from a third world country, as they tend to call us, to work for them, say even remotely in meetings online, they want to be sure you won't cause trouble, right? Week 2, move to situational judgment test. Again, remember, this is the most difficult. Yeah, SJT is the most difficult. You need to try several times to understand how to answer the question or how to answer questions. Then practice aptitude tests under time conditions. If you are numeric in nature, say you did engineering and all of those, this will not be a problem. You just need to put time into it. And most of them allow you to use calculator, right? Then week 4, conduct a mock interview using STAR method. And here, almost all the companies I know that are either put in for or read about with the intention of wanting to apply, whether I ended up applying or not, is a different kettle of fish. They all use the STAR method for refining their responses. This discussion today will not afford us the opportunity to discuss the STAR method, which is the situation, the task, your action, and your result. Right? That is the STAR. We will not be discussing today. We might plan another time, because it will take its own 90 minutes just discussing STAR. If I want to make it practical, we need to open the mic, interview some people, and get your answer. Then I'll give you a mark based on how you've answered the question using the STAR method. Very, very important. It's not so much as to the number of words, but it is whether you are answering it the way they want you to answer it. And they don't care if you get first class, it doesn't matter. Even if you are planning to apply for PhD and all the things, you need some of these things. So even if it's academic, not just job, right? So there's no point wasting time on this. We've discussed them already. Again, I've discussed STAR, situation, task, action, result. An example question can be, tell me about a time you solved a difficult problem. That practical question. Tell me about it. They don't care whichever job. It could be in your family, it could be in your village. They don't care. It doesn't have to be work related. Right? Just tell me about a time you solve a difficult problem. In this case, you have to tell them the situation. What was the situation? Then what was the task? What was the difficult problem? Then what did you do to solve that difficult problem? And what was the result? Was the problem solved or not? Again, they don't care whether the problem was solved, or did you do something? And what was the outcome? Those are sample examples for all of that. And again, remember, when you are going to prepare and practice for all of these tests, you should time yourself. Most of the sites I gave you will give you an idea of what the timing should look like, so you can then work with the timing. So those are the action plans I've given us. Aim to complete this within 14 days to maximize your impact. So if you have a job interview or a job test coming up, even if you've done this before, I would suggest you follow this at least 14 days before the test. Right? So you would have gone through all of those things over and over to prepare. All right, so I'm going to give room for question. What test type feels most difficult to you and why? But before then, I think I'll give us the opportunity to scan the QR code. Just scan this QR code, and you have this slide on your phone. Scan the QR code. If you don't have that default scanner, just snap it. You can scan the QR code. You have access to this slide, and then you can go one by one. And where there are hyperlinks, you can just zoom in and click on them. It will take you to the link. You can even download this presentation in PDF on your mobile device. So, yep, I'm going to stop recording now, and I'll give room for questions. Here.